Okay, more JLAB questions. We are simplifying radicals. So starting with this expression, right? It's an expression because there's no equal sign. We're not solving anything. We're just simplifying. So we start with the number, square root of 20. And so we do y equals, on our calculator, y equals 20 divided by x. What's the root? It would be a 2 because there's nothing written there. So I'm going to put y equals 20. So let me clear that. So y equals 20 divided by x to the second power. Okay, and then I'm going to look at the table to see what I can simplify that to. I'm going to look for the smallest y value that is not a decimal and not 20. So that would be 2 radical 5. All right, so a 2 is going to come out. If I'm simplifying this, a 2 comes out of the radical and a 5 stays underneath the radical. All right, there was, so 2 squared is 4 times 5 is 20. Now I have the x's that I can simplify. There's perfect squares in here. All right, I have x to the 16th power. So what we've said before is if I have x, that would be 16, and I want to write it as a rational exponent. It would be the power divided by the root. So I'm going to take 16 divided by 2. So that's x to the 8th. All right, I just take the 16 and divide it by the 2, and that is 8. And there's no remainder. So that means I have x to the 8th. That was a perfect square. All right, x to the 8th, and if you square it, that would be x to the 16th. And then now I'm going to do the y's. I've got y to the 25th power, so that would be y. You take your exponent divided by the index. All right, and now 25 is odd, so there is going to be a remainder. If I take 25 and I divide it by 2, all right, I'll go ahead and do that on my calculator. I'm going to take 25, quit out of there. All right, so 25 divided by 2, and I get 12 and a half, 12 for the remainder. Okay, so I know it goes in there 12 times. All right, so if I take 25 divided by 2, it goes in 12 times, and 2 times 12 is 24, so my remainder is 1. All right, so that means I get, oops, I need to erase because I don't have enough room here. I'm going to move this, move this over. One more time. Okay. I need an eraser. Okay, there we go. Oh, I have to put my pen in. All right, so I've got my square root of 5 over here, and I need room for my y's. Okay, so I'm going to have y, and then it would be to the 12th power, okay, because that was how many perfect squares I had. That 12 is what is going to come out. My remainder of 1 is going to be what stays underneath the radical. So what that means is if I have 12 times 2, because this was a square root, 12 times 2 is 24, plus 1 is 25. Okay. I'm going to rewrite that again because that looks like that 12, that 2 is part of the, that's the 12, and then I have square root of 5y, and that would be to the 1. All right, I don't have to put anything because that's just a square root. Okay, and I can see my answer is right here, right below it, right? 2 times x to the 8th, y to the 12th. And then always, if you have simplified your radical, the exponents under here are always going to be less than the root that you have here. So if your roots here is 2, all you could have here is something to the 1st power. All right, very good. So now we're on to the next one. I am just combining like terms. All right, it says I'm simplifying All right, but this is just like combining like terms. I've got square root of 2, square root of 2, square root of 2. I've got 3 of these plus 4 of these minus, and then that would be 1 of those. Okay, so my answer is going to be, well, how many square roots of 2's do I have? All right, and so what I would do is I would take 3 plus 4 minus 1. All right, and that is how many square roots of 2 I have. So I'll just, 3 plus 4 is 7, minus 1 is 6. So I have 6 radical 2's. And so this is my final answer. And I could, if I could just type that in, this original expression on my calculator, and then type this one in and make sure that they're the same decimal. All right, so I'll do that. I'll do 3 radical 2. Right, 3 radical 2 plus, oops, I got an arrow over, plus 4 radical 2, arrow over, so not underneath radical, minus, and it was just square root. I'm just going to type it exactly like it was, so there's no mistake being made. All right, so 3 radical 2 plus 4 radical 2 minus, oh, good thing I did that, not minus, x minus square root 2, right? Okay, and I'll hit enter, so that is a decimal. And then now I'm going to type in 6 radical 2, which is what I think it's equal to, 6 times the square root of 2. And they are the same. So I know that I didn't make a mistake. It's easy to make a careless mistake, so it's good to check. All right, now the next one is where we're solving, because we have an equation, right? If we're have an equation, we're solving. All right, we're solving for x. What value of x is going to make that true? So I have this cubed root, right? And there's nothing being multiplied. It's already isolated. It's already by itself. So all I have to do is the inverse of that on both sides. Okay, and then that cube root will go away. What's left is the 2x minus 5 equals, and then I've got to do 3 cubed. So that's 3 times 3 times 3. Right? 3 cubed is 3 times 3 times 3. So that's 27. Alright, and then now I just get x by itself. So I'm going to add 5 to both sides. And I get 2x equals 32. And then now I'm going to divide both sides by 2. So I get x equals 16, and I would type that in. And on your SOL, there are some fill in the blanks. It's not all multiple choice. So it's good to practice our algebra. Excellent, very good. So let's look at the next one. And this is another one where we're combining like terms because we're going to simplify it, right? It says what's equivalent. There's no equation. We're not solving. There's no equal sign. So we're not solving anything. All right, so I need to simplify. This is as low as that can go. All right, there's no perfect square in there that's going to come out. But the square root of 12, I can simplify that. So I'm going to do y equals 12 divided by x squared. And I'll do that on my calculator. Finish erasing that. All right, so y equals 12 divided by x squared. I'll look at my table, and I can see there's the 12, so the next smallest one is 2 radical 3. All right, so 2 comes out and a 3 stays underneath. So I can, I've got the 2 in front, so that would be 2. And then I could rewrite square root of 12 as 2 radical 3. All right? The square root of 12 is the same as that, 2 radical 3. And then I have this 2 in front being multiplied. Okay, and then I have, so what is that? That's 2 times 2 is 4 radical 3. Okay, so that whole thing is 4 radical 3. And then I want to add, right, it says plus 3 radical 3. So I'm going to add 3 radical 3. And these are like terms because they're both square roots of 3. So how many square roots of 3 do I have? Well, I have 4 plus 3. All right, is 7. So I have 7 radical 3, and that is my answer. And again, you could just type in the original problem onto your calculator and your answer to check and make sure they're the same decimal. All right, so 2 radical 12. So I have 2 square root of 12. All right, I'm going to arrow over so it's not underneath, plus 3 radical 3. And what does that equal? 12 something. And let's see if that's the same as 7 radical 3. Radical 3. It is. So I didn't make a mistake. I got that right. All right, very good. And then now the last one is just converting, again, a rational exponent to a radical. And this you could just type on your calculator. All right, you can do 25 to the 3 halves power. So I'm going to do 25 to the, and that's a fraction, so I'm going to do to the 3 halves, 3 over 2 power. And I get 125. And so there I go. All right. If you wanted, you could write that as a radical. I could say, okay, that's the square root of 25 cubed. All right. And then you could actually even do this. You could say, oh, okay, what's the square root of 25? It's 5. And then cube it, and you get 125. All right. But as long as we can just type it in, that is a good way to go. All right. Good job.